there's still a couple hundred officers who've been trained. And what the police department proposes, or namely our chief, is that we arm these officers with tasers.
And this is what is interesting about the taser debate is, at the same time that the officers are not complying with crisis intervention response, we've been training in the city of San Francisco hundreds and hundreds of nonprofit community-based organizations to really master a nonviolent model of crisis intervention. It's a model that not only helps us when someone is in crisis, but also helps us to keep their care and dignity as well. And this is really important, because we need more love, no more tasers. That's what I say, right?
I want to express on behalf of Idris Foundation and my co-worker Jeremy Miller, who is our director of programs, our gratitude that our draft of a resolution towards an anti-taser proposition was adopted by the Mental Health Board and was introduced by David Elliott Lewis, and also was adopted by the Youth Commission.
Hi everyone, it's great to be here. I just want to call out for a moment. We have a bunch of youth commissioners in here. I think that's it, right?
And you'll shout them out.
Situation where people are going to be very paranoid and maybe unwilling or unable to comply with these demands. You overdid it on like stimulants, like your central nervous system is already overloaded. Tasers act by overloading a central nervous system. So I'm wondering what kind of research has been done to ensure the safety of people who are high on stimulants and make sure that they're not going to die or be damaged for the rest of their lives by being tased.
Arm the entire department, and now they're talking about arming just a section of the department, and so we don't have those figures in, but it would still be expensive. I can tell you that. Right, and it would not just be the tasers. It would be the calibrators first. We'd have to have calibrating machines. We'd have to have people to train them, and then we would, if it goes through, it's recommended to have defibrillators in every patrol car in case something does happen, and it just goes on and on. So we really don't know what the number will end up at right now.
As soon as he seen that everybody was looking at him, he just, sort of put the baton away. But, if this happened on a side street or something, I'm sure that officer would have used the baton. And like I said, this guy was on the ground, he was in handcuffs, and he was posing no threat. Also, another thing, people bring up, the medical aspect, and nobody has brought up the autistic person. I have a son that has Asperger's syndrome. He acts a little weird. I can show you some of the most interesting text messages I've gotten from that boy. This is a 6'5", 250-pound man. They're not going to see a man that you have to talk to in mono. If you talk to him in monotones, you're going to de-escalate the whole circumstance. The child has a social age of about 2. And please don't tell me you would tase a 2-year-old.
It just takes a certain mentality to just shoot someone over. Like my dad was shot over $60. And he didn't speak English. He was an immigrant. And immigrants often get killed more often than people who live here. Because they just don't get the culture yet. So I worry about immigrants and their law enforcement encounters, and especially even the language barrier and things like that.
Hearing the discussion we've had so far, I think there's been a lot of kind of like agreements that we all have, a lot of like same and basic like thinkings of the. We basically don't want tasers is what we're all saying.
We don't want people to be accidentally shot as opposed to a taser. Well, I was sitting next to Oscar Grant's best friend and his uncle just yesterday. We were actually the first people this organization was the first organization to respond to that case. And you know what, the fact of the matter is, everybody from that family, from that huge community that grew out of that, is very clear. There was no mistake between a taser and a gun. That was police brutality, and the taser provided cover.
The taxpayer is going to take a hit, okay? Because those individuals will end up in emergency rooms. They're going to end up on being unable to support themselves. And for God's sakes, train your officers in martial arts, because when they are trained in martial arts, they exude a confidence that the public picks up on. It's true. And they trust the individual more.
Israeli armies like that. Yay!
And we surveyed 200 people in the community, and clearly the overwhelming response was to question number one: do you know that tasers are potentially fatal to adults and children? More than 80% of those surveys said yes, they believe that tasers are potentially fatal to adults and children, which happens to be true.
Do you know whether it's possible to talk down or de-escalate somebody with a gun?
Well, I've done knives. I've done knives, not guns. Okay? But I think it's the same. And I really think that the cops are trained on how to talk down to someone who has a gun. Probably better trained than me. But how do you tell someone to put down a knife? Is you, respectfully, in broken record form says, please put down the knife. Put down the knife. Please help me out, put down the knife. I don't want you to get hurt or anybody get hurt. Please put down the knife. Raise your hand how many of you had made by voice put someone down a knife or a gun. Every time I do this training, this happens. So it's actually very doable. It's called break the momentum.
Why does this matter keep coming up again and again and again? We have said many times that we don't want tasers, and yet it doesn't seem to die. It seems like our opinions mean nothing in the police department because they keep bringing this up again and again and again.
Jeremy and Misha, who have kicked ass to bring this constantly to the fore. Please give it up for them. I'm really excited that this issue is going from community to community so that more people are taking ownership of it. But I'm also not clear on the things that aren't being said. And for commissioners here, it almost feels like perhaps there's some deep push by the multi-million or billion-dollar industry that is going to make a serious amount of cash if these tasers get bought by the city and county of San Francisco. And so let's be very clear about connecting those dots, okay? Because otherwise, with 99% of the city of San Francisco being conscious and aware that these things are going to kill, and like the brother said, they're going to make a mistake and pull out their gun when they thought it was their taser, and we'll have more and more Oscar grants. There isn't a question of whether tasers should be here.